Chapter City Council, Tuesday, June 1st, 2021. One member is absent. Councilmember Lopez is working and he's excused. So I will ask Councilmember Espinoza to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and Mayor Pro Tem Gibbons in the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father God, we thank you for this day you've given us. I just ask for your wisdom in every situation, conversation that we will have tonight. Just give us guidance through all of this. I pray for those who are struggling with their AC units, that they can at least stay cool where they're at right now, and just pray for protection on each and every person on the travels home. We thank you and love you. Amen.
We need a motion to approve the agenda.
No changes, correct? No changes.
I know of no changes.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Public comment. We have no one before us. Did we receive anything?
No comment at this time.
Very good. Okay, we'll pass through that. It says recess. Our first session is a closed session for public employee performance evaluation. And I guess we do need a motion then to go into closed session. Okay. Closed session, motion, please.
Make a motion to recess into closed session.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second closed session. All in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed, no. Okay. Management reports. No, I'm sorry. I was ready to skip right over it. Okay. Employee performance evaluation for our city manager.
Where's Rachel? Tell Rachel.
Thank you, Mayor. As earlier tonight, the City Council recessed into closed session. There was only one item on the closed session agenda. It was the continuation of the city manager evaluation. With respect to that item, council provided feedback and direction to the city manager, and we have no further reportable action.
So, Mayor and Council, this evening, we're just going to go over the Gantt limitation appropriation, and then the follow-up from the last study session, number 3, is council consideration discussion of the one-time requests from the departments. And those are the 2 items for this evening. So we'll lead off with the Gantt and appropriations limitation, and then Bryce will hand it back over to me to talk about the additional requests from the departments.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So City Manager Gonzalez mentioned, we'll start with the appropriations limit, also commonly called the GAN limit. This is an annual process that's required by the California Constitution. It sets a limit on appropriations of tax proceeds that can be spent in a fiscal year. This is based on each year's growth, beginning with the baseline year that was set at fiscal year 1986-87. The growth is based on a combination of 2 factors, population growth and cost of living. Each city is given the option within those 2 factors to determine which ones they're going to use. So for population, the city is able to choose between either the cities or counties population increase. For this limit, we're using the city's population. It's higher at 3.46% compared to the county's 0.65%. For the cost of living, again, the city is presented with 2 options, one being the percent change of California per capita personal income. That's at 5.73%. The other one is a change in local assessment rules for non-residential new construction. This amount we do not know. We requested it from the county assessor's office. We received a response actually this morning after waiting for a while that they do not provide that information or have that information readily available. They only do the countywide level information to the state. We're going to push back on that because they should be able to provide that to us. And Jim did have some staff contacts that were able to do that in previous fiscal years. So I don't know if this is a new staff member that they have in that office. But we're going to go ahead and proceed with the 5.73% for the process, and we can come back and amend the appropriations limit once we know that figure. So with those 2 factors, we're looking at a 9.39% increase in the appropriation limit. Last fiscal year, the appropriation limit was 322 million. With the increase, we're looking at roughly 352.5 million. So it's a growth of by about 30.2 million. To put that into context, our general fund budget is less than the amount of the growth that we actually have, let alone the actual limit. When we look at the actual appropriations or the appropriations subject to the limit, it's about 25.5 million. So we're looking at about 327 million below the appropriations limit for the city. So we're doing fine with that. What we'll be doing is in the next June 15th city council meeting, along with the budget adoption, will be the appropriations limit adoption. We'll have all the work calculation worksheets, and we have posted that on the city's board today. So it's available for public viewing. And that completes the presentation on the appropriations limit. If there's any questions on that. No motion needed.
All right, so Mayor and Council, at the last study session, you heard from each of the departments. We had a total of 19 requests of the general fund. Total was 1.2 million. Of the ongoing, it was 850,000, and the one-time is 375. In the non-general funds, we had a total request of approximately 400,000. 193,000 is for ongoing, and then 200,000 total for one time. So in the police department, under the animal control division, you heard from Chief Zimmerman explain to you the justification for the additional increase of 40,000 in the veterinarian services. In conversation with him, we do need this additional 40,000 in order to continue to maintain the service that we do at our animal control shelter. This would be ongoing. In the building department, you heard from our chief, from our building official, the amount of activity we have going on at the logistics center, and he's requesting an additional 155,000 appropriation for professional services. This would help augment plan checks, inspections for the amount of activity that's going on at the WIP. My understanding is we get about 61 cents on the dollar back from fees that we collect. Code compliance, this goes towards the amount of activity our code enforcement officers saw in the last year, the amount of activity. Some of these funds go towards paying for boarding up certain structures. It's a request of $10,000. If you weren't to approve this, we might be able to absorb this from other line items within the department. In the city manager's office, proposed a reclassification of the admin assistant to align with the primary function that she is now serving in, and that is the communications, community engagement manager position. This is a proposed newly created position. The delta between the new position salary range and the current range for admin assistant 2 is $17,900, so about $18,000. You heard also from Chief Zimmerman a request of a $30,000 line item for the high intensity drug task force, which we have one officer assigned. Of the $30,000, the PD is reimbursed $19,000 from the task force. So when you apply the $19,000 reimbursement to the $30,000 request, it's only an $11,000 delta to the general fund. As part of the ongoing efforts to restructure the management element of the police department, Chief Zimmerman also proposed, and I support this, is the term position, creation of a term position for assistant chief of police. There's some savings from chilling the captain position. So you heard him say that we currently have 2 captains position. One of those captain positions would be chilled, and that budget amount would be applied to the assistant chief position. When I say it's a term position, it would be for a 2-year term. And once the 2-year term expired, the chief position would go away. And what you would then have, what you currently have now is the chief, 2 captains. Upon the expiration of the 2-year term for the assistant chief of police, you'll have the chief, 1 captain, 2 lieutenants. That delta between the assistant chief of police salary range and the captain at top step is approximately $36,000. Chief Zimmerman also proposed the unchilling of a police lieutenant position. That's a fully burdened amount of approximately $196,000. This would be ongoing. This would not be a term position. Upon unchilling it, this would be ongoing expenditure to the general fund moving forward. Also in the police department, we're proposing to convert the existing records clerk position in the police department into a police records supervisor position. This is approximately $5,000. Also in the police, you heard from Chief Zimmerman, his request for the purchase of 2 police vehicles in the amount of $150,000. You also heard from him explain to you that last fiscal year we deferred the expenditure of the purchase of those 2 vehicles. The PD currently is on every year they replace two of their vehicles. That's the rotation they're on to continue to maintain the equipment. So because we deferred them last year, we were deferred this year, that's 2 years. Given the lead time to acquire the actual or take possession of the vehicle. As you heard from the chief, it could be anywhere between 6 months, sometimes longer than 6 months from the time the order is placed to when we actually receive the vehicle. And then there's additional time needed for the additional equipment, the cage, and the decal and on and so forth, the lights that are installed after the fact, meaning after we take possession of the car itself, we have to send it off to all these different specialties for that additional equipment to be added on. We want to get 2. That's a council conversation we're not proposing for. We're just asking for the 2 this year to get back on track. Yeah. We can revisit that at mid-year, and I mean, that's a conversation we can come back to you in terms of how revenues may be trending. I think after the community results from last week, I think he was asking for a helicopter, but I think he'd be happy with maybe 2 more cars. I don't know, but that was jokingly said. For members of the public, there is no intentions to buy a helicopter. For the record. I told him if he would settle for a drone helicopter, but yeah, they are. Also, and then moving over to Public Works, we proposed a new clerk typist position. That is approximately $12,000 to the general fund with $65,000 to the non-general fund. Let me pause real quick, council. I'm just going to go through the list as we presented. And then I'm going to come back and share with you each of the items and where I've discussed with the directors, which items we might be able to postpone till mid-year, which ones are more essential to begin with now, and give you an additional recommendation or revised recommendation. So I'm just going through the list to kind of go back and kind of talk about what was presented, and I'm going to come back at the end and go back through each of the items and give you some additional comments on after discussion with the directors. Okay. Public Works also asked for a new engineer 1 position, total 140,000, 141,000. The general fund would be approximately 56,000, with the non-general fund of about 85,000. They also asked for an increase of 10,000 in department supplies. General fund $5,000, non-general fund $5,000. They also asked for a one-time acquisition of a dump truck for sewer and water. There's a possibility the 25,000 you see in the general fund is because there's a likelihood we could also use this in the parks department. So just to make sure that we're exercising prudence and we don't charge 100% to the enterprise funds and then use it in general fund purposes. We're taking this approach. The non-general fund is 100,000, and then the other capital purchase is 100,000 for a mini excavator. This is one time. This would be 100% to enterprise funds, sewer and water. It's a compact piece of equipment that, because of the number of alleys we have, they're able to maneuver in our alleys to be able to get to sewer lines or water lines, whatever it may be, type of repairs they're doing. So it would serve that purpose. This 100,000, this is actually just restoring, well, correction, 75,000 is restoring an annual budget appropriation that we carried in the budget. As explained, up until 2019, when we converted from Eden over to Munis, the 75,000 that was annually earmarked for whatever reason didn't get into the system, so it dropped off. So what we're asking is to restore 75,000. That is what we had been appropriating, and then the department's asking for an additional 25,000 for streetlight maintenance for a total of 100,000. IT, was asking for a enhanced secure backup system of $96,000. Of that, 70 or 80,000 is general fund, with non-general fund being about 16,000. They also asked for an additional IT specialist one for a total amount of 130,000, with 108,000 going to the general fund, 22 non-general fund. With this next item in Public Works, this is actually it's a position request. It's not so much an expenditure request. What is being asked is to convert the current vacant Parks Foreman position to a Maintenance Worker 1 position. This will actually result in approximately $22,000 in savings because of the delta between the Parks Foreman salary range to the Maintenance Worker 1. Obviously, a Maintenance Worker 1 makes less than a foreman. So there's estimated to be about $22,000 in savings. Of that, if council were to approve the typist clerk of the 22,000, 12,000 of that could cover that position, and we would still realize a net savings of about $10,000. So those two positions could actually be a net savings when taken in totality. Planning, we were asking for 200,000 one time. As you know, we have been doing work on the environmental justice element that is now part of the general fund, SB 1000. We are working, we did receive a very extensive comment letter from the Center of Race Poverty, et cetera, with a comment. So the city attorney's office, working with our outside consultant, Lloyd, and a CEQA attorney are working on a response on those comments. It may require some level of environmental review, CEQA review, but it could be a very minimal, more so of a supplemental EIR report than a full-blown EIR as being requested. So those are all the requests that were made. As I said, the total is approximately 1.6. The general fund is a total of 1.2. That's both ongoing and one time. And then the non-general fund of 393. So how do I go back? Oh. Okay. Any questions on that? And then I can get into the. For the planning, for the environmental justice, it's all mostly work being done by our outside consultant, Lloyd, who I think most of you have had an opportunity to meet, who's been leading the community workshops we had. So that's for him to be able to perform the environmental work. So involves the environmental work consistent with the advice from the CEQA attorney out of our city attorney's office. So 200,000. I don't recall if he broke it down by specific tasks, but that's something we can ask our consultant to provide. Exactly. It's an estimate based on the amount of work he thinks or believes we'll have to engage in order to complete the environmental justice report. Yeah, and this is an example, Councilmember Espinoza, of what we would call typically, not typically, but what we call a state unfunded mandate, because they are mandating that we have to now do this report as part of our general plan, but there's no funding from the state in order for us to do that. And this is very typical of what the state does to us nowadays. So. All right. So Mayor and Council, just to go back to the top of the list on the 40,000, as I said, Chief Zimmerman said, yes, he needs this. So this is something we do need to budget for. The 155,000, this is again, a recommendation that yes, you heard our building official, the amount of work that's taking place. The abatement, 10,000, we can probably absorb this within our the existing budget. We're going to realize some salary savings possibly in the department. So this is a 10,000 we can absorb within the existing planning budget. So this would be zeroed out. The reclass, I would still recommend that we reclassify the administrative assistant to communication and community engagement manager. The 17 or 18,000, I could probably absorb half of that in the existing city manager budget, and also look on how we cost allocate to the other departments. So for example, quite a bit of a project update noticing goes out to the community from enterprise funds. So we'll look at the cost allocation to minimize the impact to the general fund based on the departments that the work is being mostly done in. So we do quite a bit in the construction, capital improvement side of things, on the planning side, versus a lot of the community. Last year, we had a significant amount of community engagement. That was more of a general fund expenditure, mainly because there was a lot of information related to the pandemic. But being that that is decreasing a significant amount of time, a lot of this will be shifting towards more of the capital improvement. So I'm still recommending for the reclassification. On the 30,000, we're still recommending that. As I said, that is a net $11,000 ask based on the 19,000 reimbursement, and quite a bit of work. I don't believe Chief Zimmerman's at liberty to discuss what kind of work. I mean, it's involving, undercover sting of operations and other details like that. But I mean, it's, from what I understand, it is pretty effective in terms of what this task force does. I think the benefit that what Chief Zimmerman would say, and I'm not speaking on for him, but based on, previous conversations, is that it's not only for the officer we have assigned, but we get all the additional resources that come from the task force. And that is a number we really can't put a dollar on. But when you're talking about a task force from DEA and other law enforcement agencies and such, that then also work in and around chapter, I think the amount of money that we're asking for definitely doesn't compare to the amount of resources that we get for having an officer on this task force. And so, Chief, did I about summarize it? Okay, got a thumbs up from the chief. The next two items, the assistant chief position on a 2-year term, and the unchilling of the police lieutenant. Again, we are recommending this because this is part of the chiefs and the department's long-term, not only succession plan, but to be able to look at the structure to make it more effective with everything that is going on in law enforcement, and provides upward promotional opportunities for our officers. So when you promote a sergeant to a lieutenant position, now you have a senior patrol officer that's able to promote to sergeant, on and so forth. Plus it strengthens the management structure that the chief envisions for the department. So again, these two positions we're recommending or requesting your approval. The PD clerk, we're asking for authorization of the position, police records supervisor. The 5,000 we can absorb within the existing PD budget. So this would be a position authorization only, and not asking for the 5,000, as we will absorb this within the existing budget. Recommending purchase of the 2 police vehicles of 150,000 for the reasons stated. Still recommending the clerk typist position. As explained, there's cost savings with the reclassification of the foreman position to a maintenance worker 1. And at the end, this becomes a 0 impact based on that. The engineer 1 position, we can defer this. The individual that our director would like to groom for this position is still in school, and they won't be graduating until the end of the calendar year. That we would like to bring this back at mid-year budget review, and also have further discussion internally between staff of how to restructure. There's some plans on how to restructure the Public Works Department to make it more effective with the amount of work that's going on there related to capital improvement projects. The 10,000, we believe we can absorb this within the existing budget. The 5,000 in the general fund, as well as the 5,000 in the non-general fund. The purchase of both the dump truck and the mini excavator, they're one time. So the dump truck is basically 25,000 one time from the general fund and 100,000 for the non-general fund. So we're asking, still asking for that. And then obviously the mini excavator is zero hit to the general fund with 100,000 going to the non-general fund. The public works restoration of the 75,000 plus the additional 25, 100,000, we're asking for that still. That's pertinent to the overall quality of life to make sure that we're maintaining our streetlights throughout the city. On the enhanced security backup, given what we experienced last year with the Taken incident, ransomware, we are still recommending for us to go ahead and purchase this system. This will allow us redundancy in our operation, and that we would be able to house servers here on site and then also store on the iCloud. So we have a multiple redundancy factor, and we're still recommending approval on that. The IT specialist, at this time, we would be asking that you give us an opportunity to put together a strategic plan for the IT department to look at our current structure, to thoroughly vet what we're doing with the fiber optic, as well as all the other components that goes with that. And first put a strategic plan together, have our IT manager, Scott, come back to you and report his plan on how to meet those needs. We can also augment on the interim basis with contract services to meet that high peak of our demand internally for IT services. So what we're proposing for this is to bring this back at mid-year budget with after putting together a more thorough strategic plan for the information technology division. Still asking to convert the parks foreman to a maintenance worker 1, as explained already. And then obviously the 200,000 for the environmental justice. We don't have much choice in that. That's something we have to do. So in all, what's my new total? I'm just getting a sum so that you can get the sum for the general fund. It's the heat. So which one, Chair? So it's these two.
Those two together is a non-general fund.
So, Mayor Council, where we end up on the general fund impact.
Sorry.
All right, so Mayor and Council, on the general fund prior to the revisions, we're at 851,013. After the revised recommendations, ongoing ends up being 644,349. One time is, oh, sorry. Oh. Can't compete with the train. All right. So the general fund, if you look, the new revised based on the updated recommendation, we end up with 644,349 of ongoing. One time is 375,000. That's the 200,000 for the planning, 150,000 for the 2 cars, and the 25,000 for the dump truck. And then enterprise, 81,972 ongoing with 200,000 one time. That's 100,000 for the dump truck and 100,000 for the mini excavator. So that brings the total general fund when you take the ongoing as well as the one time to 1,019,349 and non-general fund of 281,972 total. So that's our, Mayor, Council, that's our revised recommendation as just read to you. It's up to you now to deliberate among yourselves or ask questions of staff of the recommendation. But we've gone through and vetted the revised recommendation. And so that's where we ended up with.
Okay. Any comments from council at this point? Any questions?
The only thing is that it just seems like we've already, I'd say, we cut all the fat off. So I think we're down to a point where either we do it or we don't, in the sense of we want to continue going forward and the city is growing, we're going to need these items. So I don't know how much more if we deny all this and we want progress, we're being, it's not going to work that way. So. So I think it's
So we need a motion.
If there are no more questions,
Yes.
Just want to make sure.
Yes. So it's a study session. So the direction would be to go ahead and
Include
add these items as read, and if that's what the direction is, into the budget. And we'll roll up these items into the final draft budget that would then be presented to you June 15th for adoption.
Informal then, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay. Good, Pete? Okay. All right. Got it?
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Should we have these pages, right, should we have these pages incorporated in here, or what are you planning to do?
Sorry, Mayor, are you talking about the pages that were included, the replacement pages?
Yeah,
Yeah, so the design is so that you can basically just swap out that page in the budget binder.
yeah, but should I have it ready now, or are you just hitting these pages?
So we've gotten, so that was just an update for those. What will end up happening, what we'll do is take these additional needs that were just given to include. We'll include those, and basically we're going to reissue a brand new complete binder, draft budget binder, budget message, everything. This is kind of the last component that we needed in order to start producing that.
Okay,
So we'll be submitting out a replacement to do those. But in the time being, if you want to look at those revisions that were listed in that memo, then those are the pages in the budget that
Yes.
those are on.
yes. Okay, we're ready.
That's it.
Well, yeah, are you ready to adjourn, or is he going to tell us?
We're ready to adjourn. There's
You
nothing
didn't
further.
understand my question then. Okay, so you're not going to discuss these at all, just put them in the book.
We just
Okay. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
make a motion to adjourn.
Come on, Gilbert. All right, we got a motion second. All in favor, say aye. Aye, we are adjourned.